In the early 1990s, the Chicago and Northwestern Railroad was experiencing some horsepower struggles with their coal drags out west. With a growing demand for a locomotive that could provide increased tonnage, tractive effort, and without sacrificing speed, the C&W teamed up with GE to produce such a locomotive. The result was an enhanced Dash 8 locomotive with improvements to the prime mover and other auxiliary systems. GE provided several power and safety options for its customers, and thus there was a large number of variants, each catered to the environment the locomotive would service. The Dash 9 would go on to sell to every Class 1 railroad and would export to countries across the world, selling almost 3,700 locomotives. Athearn has produced the Dash 9 for quite a while, with the original model being offered in the Blue Box line as a kit form. The model line would eventually upgrade to the Blue Box Ready to Roll and eventually phased into the modern Ready to Roll line as well. Athearn announced the Genesis 2.0 Dash 9 in July of 2020, and dealers took delivery in November of 2021. The announcement included 7 different road names and a total of 8 paint schemes for a grand total of 26 unique locomotives being offered in this total rehaul of the Dash 9 model. The model that we will be taking a look at today is the British Columbia Railway 4642 and is one of 4 units ordered by the BC Rail in 1995. The unit can still be seen in its original paint scheme at the time of producing this video, and only one of the 4 units has been repainted to the current CN livery. Checking out the details on the cab, the top of the locomotive has several separately applied metal grab irons across the front of the cab of the model. The Canadian unit is quite a bit different from other standard Dash 9s in the release. The first of these that can be seen is the brow-mounted bell located between the 2 LED backlit number boards. The other main Canadian feature is the 4-piece window insert that each has their own individually etched metal windshield wiper. On the top of the nose are more separately applied metal grab irons as well as the sand fill access hatches. The main LED headlight is mounted in the front of the nose, and the dual class lights are located on either side of the headlight. All the LED lighting features on the model are in the warm white color. Continuing down the front of the nose, a ladder of separately applied metal grab irons is on the engineer's side of the nose, while an access door with a clear window insert is on the conductor's side. Another one of the road-specific details for the Canadian units are the ribbed anti-climber, while the vast majority of other Dash 9 orders came with the smooth anti-climber. The LED ditch lights are located on top of the walkway, and the walkways feature a nice tread plating and have LED walkway lights. More of the separately applied details that can be seen is the coupler cut bar just below the anti-climber and feature accent painting on the ends. One of the more standout road-specific details for the BC Rail locomotives is the additional set of LED lights under the anti-climber. These are usually called rock or wilderness lights and operate in parallel with the standard ditch lights on the walkway. More of the details that are expected with the upgrade to the Genesis 2.0 line are the rubber MU cables, the snowplow with separately applied metal grab irons, and the McHenry plastic scale coupler. The conductor's side of the locomotive gives a good opportunity to check out the profile of the Canadian safety cab, a feature only found on the BC Rail units and later the CN units as well. The cab side windows have an etched metal sunshade on top, painted to match the standard paint scheme, and are tinted nicely to reduce sun glare. The windows have a silver paint around the trim of the windows and feature another etched metal part, the side mirror. Some of the details towards the front of the cab are the separately applied plastic handrails, and the piece is painted white per the prototype. The handrail follows the front cab side steps. These etched metal pieces are see-through and have a white accent paint on the edge of the step. One of the improvements that GE made for the Dash 9 was the trucks and the introduction of the high adhesion or high ad truck design. These can be seen on the BC Rail 4642. The truck is nicely detailed and features separately applied metal and plastic brake details and plumbing. The middle axle of the front truck also sports the speed recorder for the locomotive. Opening up the whole view of the conductor's side, one of the more difficult to see details are the sanding lines on the edges of the trucks. These separately applied plastic pieces can be seen on the outer extrema of the first and sixth axle. The conductor's side access door is tucked up behind the safety cab and features a window insert and an etched metal windshield wiper similar to those found on the front of the cab. The fuel tank has several nicely done details with the emergency shutoff valves, several fuel-filling ports, analog and digital gauges, and breather pipes all being attached to the main tank. Down the side of the long hood, the fine-scale plastic handrails can be seen molded in blue plastic for the stanchions, but the handrail portion is painted white. Several smaller details like the metal grab irons and lift rings for the long hood covers can be seen across the model as well. Another great detail that was added to the locomotive from the previous ready-to-roll lines is the electrical cables and bundles that are tucked up under the sill of the locomotive. These are a little bit difficult to see unless you're standing at track level or scale human size. Probably one of the best features to be added to the locomotive is the addition of the scale chain to the rear conductor's trucks for the manual brake. Athearn has also done some clever engineering so that the chain looks and fits prototypically, but still allows the owner to remove the shell without having to break the chain apart. Just above the brake chain is the manual handbrake that tightens the chain, and the see-through grill vents can be seen surrounding the brake wheel. On the rear of the locomotive, the first of the features to point out is the rear locomotive number boards that are printed on the car body. The white printing on the red base color is not the best and slightly softens the locomotive numbers. The rear light features a warm white LED in an outer housing that is painted silver. Just below the rear light is the sand fill access hatches that provide sand for tractive effort for the rear truck. The ladder of separately applied metal grab irons allows access to the roof of the locomotive and feature 3 differently painted colors organized to match the main paint scheme. Similar to the front of the locomotive, the rear walkway has an LED light that turns on with track power and is the warm white color like the rest of the lighting features. More of the standard features that match the front are the ribbed Canadian anti-climber, the coupler cut bar, grab irons, spare knuckles for the couplers, MU cables, and McHenry scale plastic coupler. The engineer's side of the long hood is overall pretty similar to the conductor's side that was seen earlier, but has some smaller detailed differences. The engineer's side has both of the middle axles featuring the animated roller bearing caps on the truck, and Athearn provides extra roller bearing caps in a bag in case any are lost upon delivery. The majority of the air system auxiliary components are located in the engineer's side. Behind the fuel tank are the air dryers. The 2 main air tank receivers are located in the knockout section of the fuel tank, and the spitter valves are tucked up under the sill in front of the fuel tank. In between all of the air system components is an extensive network of air plumbing features painted silver to match the rest of the underbody. Other features, like the jacking pads, while molded into the car body, are still fine in definition and feature painting to match the overall paint scheme. The engineer's side of the locomotive also has the dynamic brake vents and is different from the conductor's side that utilized the louvers instead. The top of the locomotive features good detailing as well. With the top of the cab, the locomotive features 4 antennas. The forward 3 smaller ones are the teardrop style, and the larger one in the back is the classic Sinclair antenna. Continuing backwards is a good opportunity to check out the warning labels on the panels and the hatch details as well. The Nathan Air Chime K5 horn sits just in front of the exhaust port on the middle portion of the long hood. One of the most detailed portions of the locomotive is the radiator cooling bank on the back of the locomotive. The cooling bank features tread plating on the front and back of the grills, with the etched metal grills between the tread platings. As mentioned during the rear detail analysis of the locomotive, the access ladder allows access to the top of the locomotive, and the last grab iron is seen attached to the rear radiator tread plating. And to save the best for last is the see-through metal walkway, the continuous etched snow grates that prevent buildup of snow through the cold Canadian winters. This feature is a road-specific detail to the Canadian units and can also be seen on the BC Rail and CN units. The powertrain behind these units is the Genesis driveline with a 5-pole skew-wound motor with precision machined flywheels and a multi-link drivetrain. All 6 axles of the locomotive pick up power and provide tractive effort to the rails. All the metal wheels feature the RP25 contour and operate well on all popular brands of track. The interior of the shell features a die-cast metal frame and connects all the powertrain components. The Tsunami 2 decoder is attached to the top of the decoder housing above the motor and connects to the LED contact pad in the front and the dual sugar cube speaker in the rear of the locomotive. Now that we've had a chance to take a look at the details, we'll go ahead and provide some track power and check out the various lighting and sound features from the Tsunami 2 decoder. The model weighed in at 22.1 ounces or 624 grams, a major upgrade from the previous ready-to-roll Dash 9, and brings the model up to par with other Genesis 2.0 models. The pulling power of 4642 was registered using a force gauge across 3 different trials, and the average was taken from these tests. It was found that the model provided 3.93 ounces of tractive effort and should be able to pull around 45 standard freight cars on a level grade. Both couplers were measured using the Katy coupler gauge, and it was found that both couplers were found at the correct height. Moving on to the scoring section, the different scoring categories are shown with their respective point values. The model will be scored off these categories and then will be given a final score and a subsequent letter grade. The packaging is the standard Genesis packaging with the Tsunami 2 manual and exploded parts pages because there's over 600 available parts for the different road-specific details. The model came wrapped in a soft plastic liner and a hard plastic exterior shell with truck stabilizers. The BC Rail units have become more photographed over the recent years due to the long-lasting BC Rail paint scheme in a period where railroads often repaint fallen flags quickly to the monotonous standard Class 1 liveries. Nonetheless, the model depicts the as-delivered paint scheme and is accurate from delivery in 1995 to somewhere around 2009 when they would have added the yellow reflective tape stripe on the sill. The paint on the model is overall pretty good. Some of the more classic Athearn issues, though, can be seen on the model, with several of the details having accent paint with some sort of chipping or voids. This can usually be seen on like the front or rear handrails, and while this isn't a huge issue, a drop of white paint can fix it, this is still a little annoying. The other issue I found was that the model was initially painted red, so the red and white stripes are a little soft, as well as the fact that any decals over the red base paint will soften white decals, so I took 2 points for both those issues. The level of detail is very impressive, especially looking at my older Blue Box Dash 9, and even more with the recent ready-to-roll Dash 9 models. The locomotive is absolutely stunning and is one of the best locomotives to come out of Athearn in its history. Honestly, there's not a lot of details that need to be upgraded or fixed or anything of that nature, and Athearn has even gone to include details that I would not have expected. As with any Genesis locomotive, all the wheels pick up electrical power and provide motive force for the engine. All the wheels were engaged and should not be any issues on standard HO scale track. Both the front and rear couplers were the McHenry scale plastic coupler and were at the correct height. However, at this price point, the model really should have metal couplers, so I'm going to take away 2 points for the plastic couplers. For the motor and electronics, the Genesis driveline hasn't had any major changes in a while, but it is still pretty bulletproof and gets the job done well. Taking off the body shell reveals that Athearn has really jammed everything in there and hasn't left any wasted space, which is unfortunate if you want to add a capacitor bank, which is not included. The model features several lighting features across the model, and while some of the lights like the walkway lights and ground lights are too dim to be really seen, these can be adjusted with CV changes. All of the lights were at the correct warm white color, and all of the LEDs were relatively straight in the housing and had approximately the same brilliance, a feat that most manufacturers seem to struggle with. The value of the locomotive is a very fair fit. The MSRP is pretty high at $340, but discounts were relatively good and brought the locomotive down to almost $250. And I thought that was a really good price for a DCC and sound locomotive with this level of drive and detail level. For the miscellaneous portion, I thought the locomotive was a great purchase at a very fair price. The locomotive is almost perfect out of the box and is my favorite Athearn purchase in recent history. Tallying up all the points gives a 95 out of 100, earning it a solid A rating. Comparing it to recently reviewed models, the Athearn Genesis 2.0-9 ties for the top spot and the highest of all Athearn products I have done a review on. Overall, this is probably the best Genesis product I've ever bought, and it honestly blew me away with the level of detail on the model. When I purchased the model at the hobby shop, I couldn't decide between the BC Rail and the C&W locomotive, and ultimately went with the BC Rail, and I believe that was a great choice. The Canadian safety cab with the 4-piece windshield, the rock lights, and the continuous snow gates on the walkways make this a very unique model and one of the coolest ones in my fleet. Almost all of the initially released models have been hitting the shelves lately, so if you're looking to pick one up, I would do so quickly because this is a great model and I don't expect it to last forever. The BNSF line is a little late in shipping and should arrive soon, as well as Athearn has already announced a second run of the Dash 9 with more road names, so if your favorite wasn't included in the initial release, it might be there. This is also a great indicator of how Athearn should be updating all of their older ready-to-roll lines as well as the aging Genesis models, and the community should be excited for what Athearn has to come out with next. So that's all I got for you guys right now. Tell me what you guys think of the review and if you'll be picking up one of these Dash 9s or if you're going to get one in the next run. I know I'm going to be picking up another BC Rail unit and eagerly awaiting for the BNSF and Santa Fe units. But thanks for watching, comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll close out the review with some run-by shots. Thanks for watching.